You know what they say about real estate? Location, location, location. Well, nobody warned me that the worst location of all is being married to a woman who thinks loyalty is just a customer rewards program. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I'm George Bishop, and I've been selling houses in suburban Boston for 15 years. I know how to spot a property with good bones versus one that's rotting from the inside out. Turns out I'm better at reading foundations than I am at reading my own wife. It started 3 months ago when Veronica began working late. Again, and then some more. Now, I'm not the jealous type. Hell, I work 60-hour weeks myself. But when your wife starts showering before she comes home instead of after, you start paying attention to the details. "Sorry I'm late, honey," she'd say, breezing through our front door at 9:30 on a Tuesday. "Client dinner ran long." Except Veronica works in marketing for a mid-sized consulting firm. Not exactly the wining and dining industry. And she'd developed this habit of keeping her phone face down during dinner, jumping every time it buzzed like she was expecting a call from the president. I started keeping what I called my cheater's journal. Not because I'm some paranoid lunatic, but because I'm a businessman. I deal in facts, evidence, documentation. When someone's trying to screw you over, you better have your paperwork in order. Tuesday, March 15th. Home at 9:45 p.m. claimed traffic. No traffic reported on Route 2. Thursday, March 17th. Working through lunch. Saw her car at Panera with another vehicle. Black BMW, license plate starting with 7G. Friday, March 18th, new perfume. When I complimented it, she claimed she wasn't wearing any. The kids, Emma, 9, and Jake, 7, started asking why mommy was always tired. Good question. If she was working so hard, why did she look like she was getting plenty of exercise? That's when I hired Danny Kowalski, a private investigator who used to be a cop before he got tired of the politics. Danny's got the personality of a parking meter, but he's thorough as hell. "Give me 2 weeks," he said, sitting in my office downtown. "If she's cheating, I'll get you proof. If she's not, you can sleep easy." 2 weeks later, Danny dropped a manila envelope on my desk that was thicker than my mortgage paperwork. "Her name's Veronica, right?" Danny asked. "Well, she's been very friendly with a guy named Darren Lowe. Owns a gym called Peak Fitness over in Watertown. They've been meeting at the Marriott on Soldiers Field Road every Tuesday and Thursday for 6 weeks. The photos were crystal clear. Veronica and some muscle-bound pretty boy with perfectly styled hair and teeth, white enough to guide ships to shore, holding hands, kissing in his BMW, the same BMW I'd seen at Panera, walking into the hotel together at 2 p.m., walking out at 4 p.m., both looking very satisfied with their afternoon workout. "There's more," Danny said. "I ran a background check on this Darren character. Turns out he knows your wife from way back. They went to Boston College together. He's been divorced twice, currently single, and according to his social media, he's been posting a lot of cryptic stuff about finding love in unexpected places and when you know, you know." I stared at the photos until they blurred. 20 years of marriage, 2 kids, a house we'd built together, literally. I'd overseen the construction myself, and she was throwing it all away for some gym rat with commitment issues and an Instagram account full of shirtless selfies. But here's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't just make you angry. If you're smart, it makes you calculating. I spent the next week acting normal, kissing her goodbye in the morning, asking about her day, pretending I didn't know she was lying through her perfectly whitened teeth every time she opened her mouth. Meanwhile, I was planning. On Thursday night, she came home at 10:15, claiming she'd been at her mother's because, "Mom's feeling really sick, George. I think it might be serious." I waited until she was in the shower, then called my mother-in-law. "Mary, it's George. How are you feeling?" "Oh, I'm fine, dear. Why do you ask?" "Veronica said you were sick. She's been worried." There was a pause. "Sick? I haven't been sick. I just got back from my book club meeting. We went out for drinks afterward. I feel great. Bingo. When Veronica came downstairs in her robe, I was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and Danny's envelope. "How's your mother feeling?" I asked casually. "Oh, still pretty rough. I think she might need to see a doctor." "That's funny," I said, opening the envelope and spreading the photos across the table like I was dealing cards. "Because I just called her. She feels fine. In fact, she just got back from book club." Veronica froze, her eyes locked on the photos. Her face went through about 6 different colors before settling on a pale green that matched our kitchen cabinets. "George, I can explain. Can you?" I stood up, gathering the photos back into a neat stack. "Because I'm really curious to hear how you explain this one." I held up a particularly clear shot of her and Darren in a passionate embrace outside the hotel. Or this one. A photo of them laughing together in his car. Or my personal favorite. The final photo showed them walking hand in hand toward the hotel entrance, both grinning like teenagers. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. For someone who makes a living with words, she was remarkably speechless. "So," I said, sitting back down and taking a sip of my coffee. "Who's sick, Veronica? Your mother or your sense of loyalty?" The silence stretched between us like a crack in a foundation, small at first, then spreading until the whole structure's compromised. Veronica stood there in her white terry cloth robe, the one I'd bought her for Christmas 3 years ago, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else in the world. Finally, she found her voice. "It's not what it looks like." I laughed, actually laughed out loud. "Really? Because it looks like my wife is screwing some gym rat at a hotel every Tuesday and Thursday while lying to me about visiting her sick mother. What exactly am I missing?" "You don't understand." "Then explain it to me." I leaned back in my chair, crossed my arms. "I've got all night. The kids are asleep, your mother's fine, and according to these photos, your boyfriend's probably wondering why you're not texting him back." That hit home. She flinched like I'd slapped her. "George, please. It just happened. I didn't plan it." "Bullshit." I tapped the photos. "This has been going on for 6 weeks. That's not, it just happened. That's a relationship." She tried a different approach, sitting down across from me, reaching for my hand. I pulled it away. "Our marriage has been struggling," she said. "You're always working, I'm always working. We barely talk anymore. When I reconnected with Darren at my college reunion last fall." "Your college reunion was in October. This started in February. That's 4 months of lying to my face." Her composure cracked a little more. I was confused. I needed time to figure things out. "Figure what out? Whether you wanted to be married or not. Because there's this crazy thing called divorce. You might have heard of it." "I didn't want to hurt you." "Well, congratulations. Mission accomplished." I stood up and walked to the kitchen window, looking out at our backyard. The swing set I'd built for the kids. The garden Veronica had planted our first spring in the house. The deck where we'd hosted dozens of barbecues with friends and neighbors. "What's his story?" I asked, without turning around. "What? Darren. What's his deal? Besides the obvious fact that he likes married women." "He's not like that. He's divorced twice, Veronica. I had him checked out. His first wife caught him cheating with a client. His second wife left him for financial issues. Apparently he's not as good at managing money as he is at managing his abs." I turned back to face her. "So either you're incredibly naive, or you don't care that you're just another notch on his weight belt." "You had him investigated?" Her voice rose. "What kind of person does that?" "The kind whose wife has been lying to him for months. The kind who likes to know what he's dealing with before he makes his next move." "Your next move?" I smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. "Oh, Veronica, you have no idea what's coming." Over the next few days, I maintained the pretense of normalcy while I dug deeper. What I found made the affair look like a minor transgression. Darren Lowe wasn't just screwing my wife. He was planning to screw me over professionally. It started when I noticed some irregularities in my business accounts. Nothing major, just small discrepancies that didn't add up. When I mentioned it to my business partner Andrew, he got a weird look on his face. "What aren't you telling me?" I asked. Andrew shifted uncomfortably in his chair. We were in our office conference room, surrounded by property listings and development plans. "Veronica came by last week," he said finally. "Here? Why?" "She said she was worried about you. Said you'd been acting strange, paranoid. She wanted to know if I'd noticed anything." My pressure spiked. "And what did you tell her?" "That you seemed fine to me. But George, she had some paperwork with her. Documents that looked official. She said you'd been making some questionable financial decisions." "What kind of documents?" Andrew reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a folder. "She left copies. Said I should be aware of them in case anything happened." I opened the folder and felt the ground shift beneath my feet. Bank statements showing large withdrawals from our business account. Withdrawals I'd never made. Loan applications in my name for properties I'd never heard of. Investment documents showing high-risk ventures that would have been completely out of character for me. All of it was fake, but expertly done. Someone had put a lot of time and effort into creating a paper trail that made me look either criminally irresponsible or mentally unstable. "Jesus Christ," I whispered. "George, what's going on?" I looked up at Andrew, my business partner of 12 years, and saw doubt in his eyes. The seeds Veronica had planted were already taking root. "It's all fake, Andrew. Every single document." "How do you know?" "Because I didn't do any of this." I held up a bank statement. "This withdrawal for $50,000? I was in court that day, testifying in the Henderson property dispute. You were there." Andrew's face cleared slightly. "That's right. You were on the stand for 3 hours." "And this loan application for the property in Springfield? I've never even been to Springfield." I spent the next hour going through each document, explaining why it was impossible for me to have been involved. Andrew believed me, but I could see the concern in his eyes. "Who would do this?" he asked. I thought about Darren Lowe, with his expensive BMW and his failing gym. I thought about Veronica's sudden interest in our business finances, questions she'd been asking about our accounts and investments. "Someone who wants me out of the picture," I said. That night, I confronted Veronica again. This time, I was ready. "We need to talk about Darren's business problems," I said. She was folding laundry in our bedroom, and her hand stilled on one of Jake's t-shirts. "I don't know what you mean." "Peak Fitness is in trouble. He's 3 months behind on his lease, his equipment financing is in default, and he owes money to half the suppliers in Boston." "How would you know that?" "Because I bought his debt." The t-shirt fell from her hands. "You what?" "I bought his debt, Veronica. All of it. As of yesterday afternoon, I own the paper on his gym, his car, and his condo. One phone call from me, and your boyfriend is homeless." She sank down on the edge of the bed. "Why would you do that?" "Because I wanted to understand what this was really about, and now I do." I pulled out copies of the fake documents she'd shown Andrew. "This was never just about an affair, was it? This was about setting me up, making me look unstable so you could push me out of my own business, maybe even get custody of the kids. Then you and Darren could ride off into the sunset with my money. That's insane." "Is it? Because these documents didn't create themselves. And Darren's been asking a lot of questions about real estate development lately. Funny thing for a gym owner to be interested in." Veronica's face had gone completely white. "George, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly. You found yourself a new man, but he comes with baggage. Financial baggage. So you figured you'd solve both your problems at once. Get rid of the old husband, keep his money, and set up your new life." I leaned closer to her. The only problem with your plan is that you're not nearly as smart as you think you are." She started crying then, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of frustration, of a plan falling apart. "What do you want?" she whispered. I smiled that cold smile again. "I want you to call Darren and tell him to meet us tomorrow night. All three of us need to have a conversation." "George, please." "Tomorrow night, Veronica. 8 o'clock. Or I make that phone call, and your boyfriend loses everything." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. As I walked out of the bedroom, I heard her reach for her phone. Phase 2 of my plan was about to begin. Darren Lowe looked exactly like his photos, except somehow more ridiculous in person. He walked into our living room like he owned the place, all swagger and cologne, wearing a tight black t-shirt that probably cost more than most people's car payments. "George," he said, extending his hand like we were old friends meeting for drinks. I looked at his hand, then back at his face. "Sit down, Darren." He glanced at Veronica, who was perched on the edge of the couch, looking like she wanted to disappear into the cushions. She gave him a barely perceptible nod. "Look, man," Darren said, settling into my favorite armchair. The nerve of this guy. "I know this is awkward, but we're all adults here." "Are we?" Because adults usually don't sneak around behind people's backs like teenagers. "You're right. We should have handled this better." I had to give him credit. He was smoother than I'd expected. But I'd been dealing with smooth talkers my entire career. Real estate is full of them. "Let's cut to the chase," I said. "How much do you owe?" "Excuse me?" "Your debts, Darren. How much are you in the hole?" His confident expression flickered. "I don't see how that's relevant." "It's relevant because I own your debt now. All of it. So when I ask you a question, you answer it." Veronica made a small sound, somewhere between a gasp and a whimper. "You're bluffing," Darren said, but his voice had lost some of its certainty. I pulled out my phone and showed him a photo of the paperwork. $230,000. That's what you owe between the gym lease, equipment financing, your car loan, and your mortgage. Want to see the foreclosure notices? The color drained from his face. "How did you—" "I'm a real estate developer, genius. I know how to buy distressed assets, and you, my friend, are about as distressed as they come." I stood up and walked over to the mantelpiece, where we kept family photos. Pictures of Veronica and me on our wedding day. The kids as babies. Family vacations to Cape Cod. "Here's what I think happened," I said, not turning around. "You and Veronica reconnected at her reunion. You were recently divorced, struggling financially, looking for a way out. She was unhappy in her marriage. Or at least, that's what she told herself." I picked up our wedding photo and looked at it. "But an affair wasn't enough for you, was it, Darren? You saw an opportunity. A successful businessman with a thriving company and significant assets. Why settle for stealing his wife when you could steal his whole life?" "That's not—" Veronica started. "Shut up," I said quietly, and she did. I turned back to face them. "So you came up with a plan. Create fake documents to make me look either crooked or crazy. Plant seeds of doubt with my business partner, my friends, maybe even my kids' teachers. Build a case for Veronica to get custody and a big settlement in the divorce. Then you two could start fresh with my money." Darren was gripping the arms of the chair so hard his knuckles were white. "You can't prove any of that." "Can't I?" I pulled out another folder. Funny thing about fake documents, they leave a trail. The software used to create these bank statements. It's registered to Peak Fitness. The computer they were created on? It's in your office. "How do you—" "Because I had your place searched yesterday. Legally, of course. I'm your primary creditor now, which gives me certain rights." I opened the folder and spread out printouts of computer files, email exchanges, and draft documents. "You two have been planning this for months. There are emails between you discussing strategy, timelines, even what to do with the kids after the divorce. Veronica was crying openly now, but Darren still looked defiant. Even if that's true, what are you going to do about it? Call the cops? This isn't criminal fraud, it's civil at worst. I smiled. Oh, Darren, I'm not calling the cops. I have something much better in mind. I walked over to the window and looked out at our neighborhood. Quiet suburban street, well-maintained lawns, families who'd known each other for years, people who trusted each other, who looked out for each other's kids, who shared gossip over coffee and backyard barbecues. You know what I do for a living, right? I sell houses. And do you know what the most important part of selling a house is? Neither of them answered. Marketing, presentation, making sure everyone knows what you're offering. I turned back to face them. I'm throwing a party next weekend, a big one. All our friends, neighbors, business associates, kind of a spring celebration, renewal, new beginnings. You're both invited. George, Veronica whispered. It's going to be quite a show. I've been working on a presentation, a slideshow actually, all about truth, honesty, and the importance of knowing who you can really trust. Darren stood up abruptly. I'm not going to sit here and listen to threats. Sit down. Something in my voice made him freeze. You're going to sit down and you're going to listen, because your financial future depends on what I decide to do in the next 5 minutes. He sat. Here's the deal. You're going to break up with my wife, tonight. You're going to tell her it was all a mistake, that you're not ready for a serious relationship, whatever. Then you're going to disappear from our lives. And if I don't? Then I call in your debts, all of them, tomorrow morning. Your gym gets padlocked, your car gets repossessed, and your condo goes into foreclosure. Plus, I release all the evidence of your little fraud scheme to every gym owner, personal trainer, and fitness influencer in Boston. Good luck finding work in this town after that. Darren looked at Veronica, who was staring at the floor. This is insane, he said. You can't just... I can do whatever I want. I hold all the cards now. The room fell silent, except for the sound of Veronica's quiet crying. There's one more thing, I said. The party's still happening, and you're both still invited. In fact, I insist you come. Consider it a farewell performance. Darren shook his head. I won't be part of whatever sick game you're playing. Oh, but you will, because if you don't show up, I'll assume you're planning to cause me more trouble, and I'll respond accordingly. I walked over to the front door and opened it. Now get out of my house. Both of you have a lot to think about. Darren stood up and walked toward the door, his swagger completely gone. As he passed me, I grabbed his arm. One more thing, I said quietly, so only he could hear. If you ever contact my wife again, if you ever come near my family again, I will destroy you so completely that bankruptcy will seem like a vacation. Are we clear? He nodded and walked out into the night. Veronica remained on the couch, crying into her hands. The party's next Saturday, I told her. 7 o'clock. Wear something nice. It's going to be the performance of a lifetime. As I walked upstairs to check on the kids, I could hear her making a phone call, probably to one of her friends looking for sympathy and advice. She was going to need both. The real show was just getting started. The next few days passed in a strange kind of suspended animation. Veronica moved through the house like a ghost, barely speaking to me, spending most of her time on the phone with her sister in California or locked in the guest bedroom that had become her sanctuary. I, meanwhile, was busy planning the party of the century. You want how many people? Asked Maria Santos, the event planner I'd hired. 200, maybe 250. I want everyone we know there. We were sitting in my office, going over the details. Maria had planned corporate events for me before, client appreciation parties, groundbreaking ceremonies, that sort of thing. But this was different. That's a lot of people for a backyard party, she said. We'll rent a tent. I want it to feel like a celebration. Music, catering, open bar, the works. What exactly are we celebrating? I smiled. New beginnings. While Maria handled the logistics, I worked on the guest list. Business associates, neighbors, friends from the kids' school, members of our country club. Veronica's co-workers, her book club, her yoga class, everyone who knew us as a couple. The invitations went out on Tuesday. By Thursday, my phone was ringing constantly. "George, this sounds wonderful," said Patricia Williams, our next-door neighbor. "What's the occasion?" "Just felt like bringing everyone together," I told her. "Life's too short not to celebrate the people who matter." How thoughtful. Veronica must be thrilled. "Oh, she's beside herself." That wasn't technically a lie. The RSVPs started pouring in. People love a good party, especially when someone else is paying for it. By Friday afternoon, we had over 200 confirmations. That evening, I found Veronica in the kitchen, staring at the catering menu I'd left on the counter. "This is really happening," she said. "Did you think I was bluffing?" "I thought you might come to your senses." I poured myself a glass of wine from the bottle she'd opened. "My senses are fine. It's my judgment that was impaired." "George, please, we can work this out. We can go to counseling, start over." "Start over," I laughed. "Veronica, you tried to frame me as mentally unstable so you could steal my business and run off with your boyfriend. That's not a marriage problem. That's a criminal conspiracy." I never meant for it to go that far. But it did go that far. You created fake documents. You tried to turn my business partner against me. You lied to our children about where you were spending your afternoons. I took a sip of wine and studied her face. Even now, even caught red-handed, she was looking for an angle, a way to manipulate the situation to her advantage. "What do you want me to do?" she asked. "I want you to show up on Saturday night and face the consequences of your choices. You're going to humiliate me in front of everyone we know." "I'm going to tell the truth in front of everyone we know. If that humiliates you, maybe you should have thought about that before you started lying." She stood up abruptly, wine sloshing in her glass. "You're enjoying this." "You're damn right I'm enjoying this. For months, you've been playing games with my life, my business, my children's future. Now it's my turn. The kids are spending the weekend at your mother's. I've already arranged it. They don't need to see this." Her face crumpled. "George, I'm begging you, don't do this." For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Then I remembered the fake bank statements, the lies, the afternoons at the Marriott while I was home helping Jake with his homework. "It's too late for begging, Veronica. The party's tomorrow night. I suggest you figure out what you're going to say when people start asking questions." Saturday morning dawned clear and warm, perfect weather for an outdoor party. The rental company arrived at 8 to set up the tent, tables, and chairs. The caterers came at noon to start prepping food. By 3 o'clock, our backyard looked like something out of a magazine. I spent the afternoon setting up the audio-visual equipment. I'd rented a professional projector and screen, the kind they use for corporate presentations. Everything was controlled by my laptop, which I'd loaded with a very special slideshow. At 6:30, I put on my best suit and checked my appearance in the mirror. I looked good, confident, successful, like a man who had everything under control. Veronica emerged from the guest bedroom wearing a black cocktail dress. Appropriate choice, I thought. She looked like she was dressed for a funeral. "Ready?" I asked. She nodded, not trusting herself to speak. The first guests arrived at 7 sharp, Patricia and Bob Williams from next door, followed by the Johnsons from down the street. Within 30 minutes, the backyard was full of people eating, drinking, and catching up on neighborhood gossip. "George, this is wonderful," said Linda Morrison, president of the PTA. "What a lovely way to bring the community together." "Thank you, Linda. I believe in the importance of honesty and transparency in all our relationships." I worked the crowd like the professional I was, making sure everyone had drinks, introducing people who didn't know each other, playing the perfect host. Veronica stayed close to the house, nursing a single glass of wine and looking like she wanted to disappear. At 8:30, I clinked a fork against my glass to get everyone's attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention for just a moment." The crowd quieted down, turning to face me. I was standing next to the projection screen, laptop in hand. I want to thank you all for coming tonight. Veronica and I are so grateful to have such wonderful friends and neighbors in our lives. Polite applause rippled through the crowd. As many of you know, I work in real estate, and one of the most important lessons I've learned in business is the value of transparency. When you're buying a house, you want to know everything about it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. No surprises, no hidden problems. I clicked the laptop, and the screen filled with a photo of our house when we first bought it 15 years ago. When Veronica and I bought this house, we knew exactly what we were getting. A solid foundation, good bones, room to grow. We've been very happy here. More photos flashed on the screen. Our wedding, the kids as babies, family vacations, birthday parties. The crowd smiled and murmured appreciatively. But sometimes, I continued, even the most solid foundation can develop cracks, small ones at first, barely noticeable. But if you don't address them, they spread. The photos on the screen changed. Now they showed the pictures Danny had taken, Veronica and Darren holding hands, kissing, walking into the hotel together. The crowd's murmur changed tone. People started looking around, confused. These photos were taken over the past 6 weeks, I said calmly. They show my wife Veronica with her boyfriend, Darren Lowe. They've been meeting at the Marriott on Soldiers Field Road every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon. The silence was deafening. 200 people standing in my backyard, staring at explicit evidence of my wife's infidelity, projected on a 12-foot screen. Veronica made a strangled sound and started toward the house, but I wasn't finished. But the affair was just the beginning, I said, clicking to the next slide. What you're looking at now are fake financial documents that Veronica and Darren created to make me appear either criminally irresponsible or mentally unstable. Bank statements, loan applications, investment records, all the fraudulent paperwork they'd created filled the screen. Their plan was to have me declared unfit, take control of my business and assets, and start a new life together with my money. The crowd was riveted now. This was better than any reality TV show. Fortunately, I continued, I discovered their scheme before they could execute it. I've since acquired all of Mr. Lowe's debts, effectively ending his ability to cause further trouble. I clicked to a final slide, a photo of Darren's gym with a closed sign on the door. As of yesterday, Peak Fitness is permanently closed. Mr. Lowe has left town to start fresh somewhere else. I wish him luck in his future endeavors. I closed the laptop and smiled at the crowd. I wanted all of you to hear this from me directly, rather than through gossip or speculation. Veronica and I will be divorcing, of course. The children and I will continue to live here, and I hope we can count on your continued friendship and support during this transition. The silence stretched for what felt like forever. Then Bob Williams started clapping. Slowly, others joined in, until the entire crowd was applauding. I looked around for Veronica, but she was gone. Probably hiding in the house, or maybe she'd left entirely. Either way, it didn't matter. The truth was out. The show was over, and I had won. The party continued for another 2 hours after my presentation, though the atmosphere had definitely shifted. Instead of casual neighborhood chatter, people huddled in small groups, whispering about what they'd just witnessed. I moved through the crowd, accepting condolences and support like a politician working a campaign event. "George, I had no idea," said Margaret Chen, whose daughter was in Emma's class. "Veronica always seemed so devoted to the family." "People aren't always what they appear to be," I replied. "That's why I believe in full disclosure." "You handled this with such dignity," added her husband Tom. "A lot of men would have just gotten a lawyer and kept it private." I considered that, but I realized our friends deserved to know the truth. We're a community here. We look out for each other. By the time the last guests left around 11, I was exhausted but satisfied. The catering crew cleaned up while I sat on my back deck with a scotch, replaying the evening's events. My phone had been buzzing constantly with texts and calls from people who'd heard about the party secondhand. Word was spreading fast through our social circles. Around midnight, I heard a car pull into the driveway. Veronica's Toyota. She'd disappeared during my presentation, and I'd assumed she was hiding upstairs, but apparently she'd left entirely. She came through the front door looking haggard and defeated. Her makeup was smeared, her dress wrinkled. "Where did you go?" I asked. "Drove around. Ended up at Starbucks on Route 9, sitting in the parking lot." "Thinking about what?" She slumped into the chair across from me. "About how completely you destroyed me tonight." I told the truth. "If that destroyed you, maybe you should examine your choices. 200 people, George, everyone we know. Everyone you lied to for months." She was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the backyard where a few hours earlier her affair had been exposed to half the town. "What happens now?" she asked finally. "Now we get divorced. You move out. We figure out custody arrangements and asset division." "The house?" "The house stays with me and the kids. You can have the condo in Florida and half the liquid assets." "That's generous, considering. I'm not trying to be vindictive, Veronica. I just want you gone." She nodded slowly. "I'll start looking for an apartment tomorrow." "Take your time. A week or two won't matter." We sat in silence for a while. Despite everything, there was something almost peaceful about finally having it all out in the open. No more lies, no more pretending, no more wondering what she was really doing when she said she was working late. "Can I ask you something?" she said eventually. "Sure." "When did you know? I mean, really know?" I thought about it. "The night you said you were at your mother's and she was fine. That's when I knew for certain, but I'd suspected for weeks." "I wasn't very good at it, was I?" "The lying." "No, you weren't. You're many things, Veronica, but you're not a natural deceiver." "Then why did I try?" "That's something you'll have to figure out for yourself." She stood up, smoothing down her dress. "I should go to bed. Tomorrow's going to be difficult." "The kids will be back Sunday evening. We should tell them together." "What are we going to say?" "The truth. An age-appropriate version of it." She paused at the doorway. "For what it's worth, I never meant for it to go as far as it did. The fake documents, the plan to undermine your business, that was Darren's idea." "But you went along with it." "Yes, I went along with it." "Then you're just as responsible as he is." She nodded and went upstairs. I heard the guest bedroom door close softly. I finished my scotch and walked through the house, turning off lights and checking locks. In the living room, I paused at the mantelpiece where all our family photos were displayed. 20 years of marriage, reduced to evidence in a divorce proceeding. But as I looked at the pictures, our wedding, the kids' births, family vacations, Christmas mornings, I realized I wasn't as sad as I'd expected to be. Angry, yes. Disappointed, certainly. But not heartbroken. Maybe that said something about the state of our marriage even before Darren came along. Maybe we'd been going through the motions for years, staying together out of habit rather than love. Or maybe betrayal on this scale just kills whatever feelings you had left. Either way, I was ready to move forward. Sunday morning, I woke up early and drove to my mother-in-law's house to pick up Emma and Jake. Mary greeted me at the door with a concerned expression. "George, I heard about last night. Patricia Williams called me this morning. News travels fast. Are you all right?" "I'm fine, Mary. Better than fine, actually." "And the children?" "We're going to tell them today. They'll be okay. Kids are more resilient than we give them credit for." Emma and Jake were in the backyard playing on Mary's swing set. They ran to me when they saw me, full of stories about their sleepover with Grandma. "Did you have a good party, Daddy?" Emma asked as we drove home. "It was very educational," I said. "What does that mean?" "It means everyone learned something important." Jake piped up from the back seat. "Is Mommy going to move out?" I glanced at him in the rearview mirror. "What makes you ask that?" "Tommy Morrison's parents got divorced last year, and his dad moved to an apartment. Tommy said there were lots of fights first and then his dad left." Have Mommy and I been fighting? Not fighting exactly, but you don't talk to each other anymore, and Mommy's always sad. Out of the mouths of babes. I'd thought we were hiding the problems from them, but kids notice everything. We'll talk about it when we get home, okay? All four of us together. That afternoon, Veronica and I sat the kids down in the living room and explained that we were getting divorced. We kept it simple. Sometimes grown-ups realize they're not happy together anymore. It wasn't their fault. We both loved them very much. They would always have two parents who cared about them. Emma cried a little. Jake asked if he could still play Little League. Both reactions seemed perfectly normal and healthy. Will you get married to someone else? Emma asked me. I don't know, sweetheart. Maybe someday. But right now, I'm just focused on taking care of you and Jake. What about Mommy? Veronica fielded that one. I'm going to get my own apartment nearby, so I can see you all the time, and maybe someday I'll meet someone new too. Over the next 2 weeks, Veronica moved out gradually, taking clothes and personal items to a furnished apartment she'd rented in Newton. The kids adjusted better than I'd expected. Their routines didn't change much. Same school, same friends, same house. The social fallout was more dramatic. Veronica was essentially ostracized from our social circle. Her book club asked her to leave. The country club revoked her membership. Even her yoga instructor stopped returning her calls. I felt a little bad about that, but not bad enough to intervene. Actions have consequences, and public humiliation was the consequence she'd earned. 3 weeks after the party, I got a call from Danny Kowalski. Thought you'd want to know. Your buddy Darren surfaced in Phoenix. Got a job at a chain gym making $12 an hour. Good for him. Starting over can be therapeutic. Word is he's telling people out there that he was the victim of a vindictive ex-boyfriend who ruined his business over a woman. People believe what they want to believe. You want me to keep tabs on him? No need. He's not my problem anymore. And he wasn't. None of it was my problem anymore. I had my house, my business, my kids, and my reputation intact. Veronica had her freedom and whatever lessons she'd learned from the experience. As for me, I'd learned something too. I was stronger than I'd thought, more resourceful, and definitely not the kind of man who takes betrayal lying down. 6 months later, I was having dinner with a woman named Sarah, a teacher I'd met at one of Jake's baseball games. She was smart, funny, and refreshingly honest. Everything Veronica hadn't been. So what happened to your ex-wife? Sarah asked over dessert. I mean, if you don't mind talking about it. She made some poor choices, I said, but it worked out for the best. Sometimes you have to tear down a structure completely before you can build something better. Sarah smiled. Spoken like a true developer. Everything I know about construction, I learned from real estate. Good foundations, quality materials, and never cut corners on the important stuff. And what's the most important stuff? Trust, honesty, mutual respect. Without those, the whole thing falls apart eventually. She reached across the table and took my hand. Those sound like pretty solid building principles. They are, and this time I'm going to make sure I get them right. As we walked out of the restaurant that night, I thought about how different my life was from a year ago. Better in every way that mattered. Cleaner, more honest, more authentic. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. Sometimes it's just building a better life.